Hello, 8th graders. So this is a how-to for Doodle Notes. Just because some 7th grade teachers didn't do Doodle Notes, some 7th grade teachers expect very little, and some don't expect anything or expect so much that I just want to make sure you have the basic understanding of what we are expecting for this. So, first things first is, I always forget, but we need to put our name. So I'm going to put mine up here. Okay, so make sure you put your name on it. I try to remember, but clearly I forget, like this time. So the first thing I always recommend doing is reading through the Doodle Notes. What is on this page? So everything in rectangular boxes are going to be key terms, so things that you really need to know and understand. Then right below it, you're going to get its definition. So Earth's rotation is 24 hours. Earth's orbit, the orbit is an elliptical path that the Earth takes around the sun once every year, things like that. Okay. Then this is where you start to look at your pictures. So you have the sun, day versus night, you have the sun, you have an elliptical orbit, you've got this little sundial, and then, and you have this little degree angle. Then I would start to look at these itty bitty words, because these are essentially telling you what they want you to do. So, what causes day and night? I know it's really hard to see the little itty bitty words from how far my camera is, but shadows change depending on how high or the sun or low the sun is in the sky. So things like that. The extra quarter of a day. Did you know that Earth orbit is about 577 million miles or 930 million kilometers long? Things like that. Okay? So what I want to highlight first, so I just have a regular yellow highlighter. You can use whatever color highlighter you want, but what I like to do first is I like to go through here and I see, okay, Earth's axis. Now, you can either be fun about it and you can write over the words, whatever, or you can simply draw a line through it. Now that I'm seeing this on my camera, let's see if I can angle. Ooh. You still can't see it as well. Okay, but I used my yellow highlighter for that. Okay, so then what I'm going to go through, and I'm actually going to switch it to hopefully an easier yellow to see. Oh, fabulous. Okay. So, Earth's axis. Now, what do I need to know about Earth's axis? Well, rotation is the spinning of Earth on its axis. The axis is an imaginary line that passes through the north and south poles of the planet. Now, I don't want you to highlight the whole definition, because I would never expect you to memorize a whole definition. But rather what I want you to do is I want you to highlight the important ideas that will help you remember. So for me, imaginary line is a big one for that. Okay? And you can say North and South Pole. Okay? Now, if you need more, highlight more. It does not bother me. It has to be whatever works for you. Okay? So, that. Then I'm going to move over here. Earth's rotation. Okay? So it takes 24 hours, and then over here, rotation was built into this definition. So rotation is the spinning of Earth on its axis. So I'm going to highlight spinning on axis. Okay? And then I might, maybe with my pencil right now, and go through with a different color, but here I might draw a little arrow, just so that I know that this definition is up here. Okay? So then I'm I'm going to come down to Earth's orbit. I always want to hit my key terms first. At least this is like my rule of thumb. So Earth's orbit. Earth's orbit is an elliptical path that the Earth takes around the Sun once every year, aka a revolution. This is big, so not only am I going to highlight it, but I'm also going to make some sort of indication like this is big. Okay? For Earth's orbit, I need to know that it's an elliptical path and that it's around the Sun every year. Okay? So, that's what this is. Now I'm going to start kind of looking at my other random stuff. So, the Earth's axis is not vertical, but tilts at 23.5 degrees. That's a big deal. Okay? Then I'm going to start filling in the questions that it's asking. Okay? So, I'm going to use my pencil for this one. So, the first question is, what causes day and night? Now, what I want you to remember is that when you're answering questions like this, I want to see you use some of the vocabulary that you've been using on here. So, well, what causes day and night? If we look at this, it's Earth turning around. We have day on this side, night on this side. So even if you didn't listen to the PowerPoint or read in the textbook, you should be able to kind of figure out, well, it must be because Earth is rotating. Okay? So what we're going to say is that Earth's rotation causes day versus night. Earth's rotation causes day versus night. Okay. Now, you might want to write it in fancy little fonts or whatever, or make it more interesting, kind of like what it does here with day versus night, whatever. Okay, but this is the bare minimum. It answers the question. Okay, now over here. Shadows change depending on how high or low the sun is in the sky. Try going outside on a sunny day. Measure your shadow at midday and then again in late afternoon. Draw your observations below. Well, we're not going to do that. I mean, if you want to, go for it, I guess. But what I'm going to do, just because I'm here, I don't have the opportunity to go out at midday, I'm going to draw what I am aware of. Okay? There's a reason why we call it high noon. And this is when the sun is at its uppermost point in the sky. And if I were to go outside, and yes, I draw stick figures, my shadow would not be very big. My shadow would just be kind of around my feet. Okay? Versus if I go out like right now where the sun is starting to set, so I'm just going to draw it lower in the sky, and I stand in my same sort of placement. Okay? Now my shadow would be cast out significantly behind me. Okay? Most don't ask you to do little experiments like this, but at least you can kind of like get a feel for it. Okay? Moving down here, the extra quarter of a day results in a leap year once every 4 years. During a leap year, we add one extra day to the calendar, February 29th. Leap years are needed to keep the calendar in sync with the solar year or the Earth's solar orbit. Okay? So that's just good information to know. So what you can do then is extra quarter, leap year, every 4 years. Okay? And then February 29th doesn't obviously happen every year, so maybe I want to just kind of put that around there. Okay? Now, this is just going over the basic information, okay? What I'm expecting you to do with key terms and definitions, okay? Kind of looking through the rest of the information and answering the questions, okay? But in order to get a 3 or more of a proficiency towards these sorts of standards, if you choose these as your notes, I am going to ask you to color. Now I know that seems silly, but I'm not asking you to color this whole page. But rather, I want you to just color what you think is necessary to remember this information. So, personally me, understanding like the sun, and by no means you have to make this super, like the colors need to make sense, but it doesn't need to be super artistic by any means, okay? But I need to understand the sun, so I'm going to sit here and I'm going to color in the S-U-N of sun with orange, and then because the sun looks yellow, I'm going to color in yellow around it. Okay? And yes, I'm that person who does want it to look very realistic, and I typically match my highlighters to like the main color that I think this like Doodle Notes feels like. You don't need to be as extra as I am some days. Okay? But it should make sense. Your sun should be yellowy orange. It should not be blue. It should not be green. Okay? That wouldn't make sense. And then yes, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to make sure that my continents are colored in green. And I'm going to make it kind of a lightish green on this side because it's in the daylight. It's reflecting a lot of light back because that's just what happens. But as soon as we start getting into the nighttime, then it's going to get a little bit darker. Okay, so this seems silly, but I promise there's studies behind why Doodle Notes are so effective, especially for your age group. Okay, it gets all sorts of like neurons snapping up in those little like brains of yours and all this. Make sure my ocean is blue, because it'd be weird if it wasn't. Okay, so I'm going to just kind of keep doing this. I might narrate here and there because I have no one else to talk to. Will and Mr. G are watching Wildcrats in the living room, and I want to make sure you guys know exactly what I'm looking for. So, I'm going to do this. Okay. So, and again, because I'm a little extra, this is going to be purple, because it's darker, versus this is going to be blue, because it's the daytime. Okay, so that, 24 hours, I think that's really important to know. So, I'm going to just choose another color. I chose green. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to color in 24 hours. Okay? It is important to understand that Earth's rotation is 24 hours. Not that we're really going to be talking about other planets, but to still have that understanding that it is 24 hours for it to completely rotate on its own axis. Okay? And because I drew that arrow, I chose green, so I'm just going to use green. I'm going to take one of my green markers or highlighters, and I'm going to make sure that I know that this is the information that goes along with that. Okay? So that, I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to color this, again, making it a little bit realistic, whatever. So, I'm not looking for you to have the entire page covered in color, but rather, like, we should know that when we're looking at this, this is the sun, versus if we're looking at the other objects, it's like the other planets. In this case, it's the Earth. Okay? And again, I'm just going to make sure that I know that this is the orbital path. Okay. That's purple. 365 1/4. Okay. 1 year if you want to make that all fancy. So, I would be very happy with this. I want you to understand, like, the sun and the earth relationship. Oh, as I'm sitting here looking at this, I'm going to say, just because this is the way I always draw it, I want to know that that's spinning. Yes, you have the arrows here, but it's spinning on this axis. That helps me remember rotation. Okay? So, this would be plenty. If you're happy with it, I'm happy with it. I just want to see effort. I want to see that you are trying to make connections that'll help your brain. That's it. Okay? So, this is what I would consider proficient doodle notes. Sometimes you might have to add some more of your own information. Sometimes you might not need to. Like, I didn't have to add any extra information to this because I felt like this one covered it fairly well. But yeah, so awesome. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them and check in with your teacher to see if what you are doing is sufficient for proficiency. Okay? Awesome. Thanks, everyone.